So outside of Joe Biden, nobody's life changed more on November 8th, 2020 than Chase Elliott's. Like father, like son, Chase became a Cup Series champion 32 years after his father Bill. The hump had been crossed and the torch had been passed. This was set to be the beginning of the next NASCAR dynasty.
Nope. You serious?
Look, as a Chase Elliott fan, I'm gonna be honest. These last 4 years have been pretty underwhelming. Especially after the Cloud 9 feeling of him winning the Bill France Cup. To an extent, it's not like he's fallen off the face of the earth. Elliott does an impeccable job at getting good finishes and typically ends each season with the best average finish. However, something weird has been up with Chase Elliott and this number 9 team. Hendrick Motorsports has re-emerged as NASCAR's Goliath. In just the last 2 weeks, we have seen 2 Hendrick Motorsports drivers put on lights-out performances, William Byron at Darlington and Kyle Larson at Bristol. In those exact same races, Chase Elliott for most of the day was an 8th to 15th place car. Now, it's not like this is just the 9 team having an off race. This has been a trend over the last 2.5 years. The number 9 car hasn't had the pace of the 5 and the 24, which it shows in the laps led this season. The lack of speed and raw pace out of Elliott at the short tracks, road courses, and intermediates has translated to a lower number in the wins column. In the last 80 points paying races, Hendrick drivers have combined to win 24 races. Chase Elliott only contributed to 1 of those victories. Despite Hendrick's renaissance, the numbers show that Elliott seemed to fare better during their dark ages from 2017 to 2020. So this brings up an interesting topic of conversation that nobody's really touched on. How did Chase Elliott go from 2020 champion to being third wheel on his own team? Perhaps as a forever Jeff Gordon fan, I should have seen this coming. The current number 9 team is the 24 team Jeff Gordon had during his final years. The longtime crew chief of this program is Alan Gustafson. For over 2 decades, he's been on the top of the box for Hendrick Motorsports for 4 likely Hall of Famers when it's all said and done. With the likes of Kyle Busch, Mark Martin, Jeff Gordon, and Chase Elliott, Alan does have a respectable resume. Now, while he has had his moments over the years, let's be honest, Alan Gustafson is not an elite crew chief. I'm sure Jeff Gordon and Chase Elliott fans alike would agree with me. More times than not, Alan finds himself on the losing side of strategy and adjustments. During the Jeff Gordon era, it was him taking a top 5 car all day and finishing 14th with it. Now, under Chase Elliott, the 9 car typically starts out with pace, then somewhere during stage 2, Alan screws up on an adjustment, Chase Elliott fades before Alan corrects it, and the 9 finishes inside the top 10. This has been almost every single race for Chase Elliott and this number 9 team since 2023. When it comes to winning races and performing at an elite level in the NASCAR Cup Series, I would say that a race team is like an enormous clock. It only works if all the cogs mesh together. When I look at Chase Elliott and Alan Gustafson, I am not seeing a driver-crew chief pairing that is firing on all cylinders. According to Reddit, take that with a grain of salt, the 2 have questionable chemistry. Apparently, when Chase Elliott asks the team for SMT data, this is Alan's reaction.
I don't know anything about what you're talking about.
Honestly, I would say Alan Gustafson is NASCAR's Mike Tomlin. He's solid enough for, on average, a win and a top 10 points finish. Elite levels of performance, however, are just not sustainable. 2009, 2014, 2020, and 2022 are regarded as Alan's best seasons as a crew chief. In the follow-up seasons, Alan and his drivers always regress in wins. Historically, Alan is the type of crew chief that hits on something like strategy and adjustments, and then the next year it just all vanishes. When you look at almost every single season of Alan Gustafson, there are plenty of wins and championships that he and his drivers left on the table. Especially when you look at Alan's teammates at Hendrick Motorsports. In the late 2000s, early 2010s, Chad Knaus forged a dynasty. Consistently, he was able to outsmart and outstrategize Alan with the exception of 2009, 2011, and 2014. Now in the 2020s, it's basically history repeating itself. Alan often glances at victory lane to see either Cliff Daniels or Rudy Fugle take in all of the spoils of victory. While Alan deserves credit for molding Chase Elliott into the driver he is today, maybe, just maybe, this driver-crew chief pairing has run its course. It's not like this would be an abnormality either. Even Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus found themselves incompatible at one point. That's just the nature of sports. Times change. Now, should the 9 team head a different direction, one name that you guys should probably keep an eye on is Adam Wall. He has a long time history in the HMS pipeline, whether it was a fabricator, car engineer, or crew chief for the Xfinity program like he is now. Wall and Elliott finished second at Darlington, which is statistically one of Chase Elliott's worst tracks in Cup. In many ways, changing the crew chief can be that thing that gets a little more out of a driver, and possibly that same thing could happen to Chase Elliott if Hendrick decides to split him up from Alan Gustafson. Now, while Alan Gustafson has many flaws, I'm not going to sit here and act like Alan Gustafson is 100% the problem as to why Chase Elliott isn't winning races. Just look at the Generation 7 car. This car has been a great reset for NASCAR. Some drivers who were unestablished have made their names in the Gen 7 car. Meanwhile, multiple veterans that tasted the champagnes of victory in the Gen 6 have had long winless streaks with the Gen 7. Honestly, Chase Elliott is a driver that falls into the latter. Chase Elliott has struggled to adapt to a car unlike anything he's ever driven. Late models, Xfinity, Gen 6 Cup, etc. Nothing that Elliott has ever driven compares to this car. He has even went on record in saying that the Gen 7 has forced him to radically change his driving style. The only time where Chase Elliott felt truly comfortable with the Gen 7 car was 2022. This was a season where everyone was still learning the car, so because nobody had it figured out, Elliott could drive the Gen 6 and get Gen 6 results. At the moment, 2022 is Chase Elliott's best year in the NASCAR Cup Series. To many fans, when they look at his statistics alone from this season, they believe that he should have been the 2022 champion. However, Elliott would go cold in the postseason and had to depend on his regular season success to make the championship 4. Chase Elliott failed to adapt, and I would say that's the main reason why he lost the 2022 championship. Ever since that loss, Chase Elliott hasn't been the same driver. Not just with the numbers, but it seems like at the end of 2022, I noticed that there was a vibe shift with Chase Elliott. The aura of Chase Elliott has just seemed off. Honestly, I am sick and tired of the narrative that Chase Elliott is as interesting as Miss Lemon Raspberry Loaf. Chase Elliott had a lot of aura when he was on the rise. Look at just how pumped up he was after coming back to win the 2019 Charlotte Roval, or how he gave Kyle Busch the bird after he got wrecked at Darlington, or how he trolled Kyle Busch by doing his signature bow after winning a truck race, or just seeing him tear up and get emotional after becoming a NASCAR Cup Series champion. Contrast that with how he celebrates now. 2024 Texas should have had Chase Elliott fired up. Historically, Texas is one of Chase Elliott's worst tracks. Plus, it had been 1.5 years since Chase Elliott's last victory in the Cup Series. Yet, you just see him get out of that car and he does that generic fist pump into the air and just thanks the fans for coming out. Honestly, I can point to this moment and see out of Chase Elliott that there was no aura, there was no passion. Which honestly, I can understand the numbness of emotions that Chase Elliott was feeling. I believe that Chase Elliott as a driver resonates more with old NASCAR. He's probably heard countless stories from his dad on how fun it was to race back in the day. Unfortunately, the NASCAR that Bill got to experience no longer exists. In some cases, like the safety, it is a good thing. However, the crowds aren't as big. The television audience is a fraction of what it once was. The racing has taken a nosedive at several tracks with the Gen 7 car. Many Cup drivers will even come out and say that racing in the Xfinity Series is more fun than Cup. Then you have the points format that makes it to where you can dominate the first 8 months of a season, but still lose the championship by simply going winless in the final 4 races. I would not be surprised if Chase Elliott feels like a true millennial. The majestic dream that his boomer parents sold to him didn't turn out like he expected. NASCAR isn't as great and prestigious as it once was from an old school perspective, and maybe Chase Elliott feels that same way. So in what ways can the number 9 team get back to their winning ways? To come to a conclusion, I want to look at some data from Auto Racing Analytics. When you look at Chase Elliott's strengths as a driver, he is great at passing, defending, and crash avoidance, where he's among one of the best in the Cup Series. It's mostly everything else where the number 9 team is alright. When compared to his teammates on speed, Chase Elliott is 3rd fastest on short track speed and 4th in terms of intermediates, long run speed, and short run speed. Then you look at his restarts, just absolutely brutal compared to Kyle Larson. I think this data is what justifies the talking points I had earlier. Alan Gustafson and Chase Elliott are not making solid adjustments throughout the race. Chase Elliott isn't aggressive like other drivers on restarts, and that hurts him later in the runs because it is really hard to pass with this Gen 7 car. Plus, the pit crew for Chase Elliott, which was a strength for him in 2020, is now his kryptonite. Short term, these are the things that the number 9 team needs to improve. However, if they cannot improve on those things, I fear that the number 9 is falling into one of the worst feelings in professional sports. That feeling is something that I call comfortably competitive, where you're a team that is good enough to make the playoffs, but not good enough to contend for championships, or in the case of Chase Elliott, go out and win races. In my opinion, the number 9 team keeps getting closer and closer to becoming the NASCAR equivalent of the Pittsburgh Steelers and the St. Louis Cardinals. Hendrick Motorsports cannot let that happen, and if things don't improve performance-wise, changes need to be made. Whether that's promoting Alan Gustafson to another role, making Adam Wall Chase Elliott's crew chief, or just some shakeups within the 9 team. It would need to happen, especially considering that we've seen what Chase Elliott is capable of. When he's at his best, Chase Elliott can be a top 5 driver in the NASCAR Cup Series. I would hate to see Chase Elliott's career continue to be wasted because he's just comfortably a 7th place guy and gets alright results. No, Hendrick Motorsports needs to find new ways to get the most out of Chase Elliott and help him return to that form he had when he won the Bill France Cup. So if you guys enjoyed this video, subscribe to NRF Productions, subscribe to Fuel Cell Full, and be sure to subscribe to the Digital Gas House Patreon. Other than that, this is Nathan for Digital Gas House. Life's a beach, and then you drive.